Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we've got a lot to talk to you about today. And what are we going to be talking about? Fundraising. Fundraising in this new environment that we're all in. And by new, I don't just mean what we went through in 2020, but this next year ahead of us. We just came out of one of the craziest years for investing. In one aspect, it was supposed to be a good year. Another aspect, it was going to be one of the worst years for venture capital. In the other side, it turned out to be one of the best years in venture capital, as many have seen and many have argued as well, as we came into the second half and started to see more fundraising, more public offerings, more public vehicles such as SPACs and others come to light, and saw a fundraising landscape like we haven't seen since, as some have said recently, the dot-com era. For those that are tuning in that might be a little too young for that, check out the year 1999, 2000, and 2001. It was a wild time. And for those in the Bitcoin space, also in the ICO space, call it 2017. But being said, this feels a lot different. And because of that, we've seen a crazy amount of fundraising go into all kinds of different technologies and companies and products all around the world. Because as Gary will mention here in just a moment, as all of our guests will, the funding landscape has changed. The process itself is more virtual, more open, and more fun than it ever has been, thanks to technology that we've all embraced and have now become very comfortable with. But what does that mean going forward? How should we be thinking about fundraising? Where should we be placing our bets? What should we be prepared for going into the year ahead? Well, that's what we're here to talk about. And before we get started, a big thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in. If you like what you hear, click that big red subscribe button to be able to tune in all day, every day to all episodes of VCTV as we bring together the best and the brightest from around the world to share with you their thoughts and insights on different technologies, industries, and regions around the world, along with their on-the-ground perspective. And entrepreneurs, there's also that opportunity for you too. It's an opportunity for you to join us on the virtual stage here at VCTV to pitch us your company, product, or service and get real-time feedback from us as investors and founders focused in your space. What better way to end the year and kick off the next than doing just that and getting exposure to our entire live audience? Reach out to the team and or myself, and we'd love to find the right spot for you in either case. And speaking of that team, a huge thank you to the LA Token team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and get our introductions going today with our guests coming from all corners of around the world, from the cold tundra on one coast to the warm, breezy-ish coast on the other side. Raghu, welcome back. It's a pleasure to see you. I know you're a little buried in snow, but nonetheless, happy holidays and welcome. A little intro, a little background.
Happy holidays. Thanks, Kyle, for having me. And I think a lot of the old hands here, including our country boy. So, thank you. I'm from Princeton, New Jersey, and I have a harvesting enterprises which helps from seed to harvest companies with strategic planning, execution, and exit. And I think a lot of what I'm seeing right now is immediate needs are for the vaccine delivery and kind of getting back to the public participation. I think that is kind of the immediate next 6 months. But going forward, a lot of the technologies that are enabling technologies for the new normal will continue, as well as some that went on the back burner, maybe like AR, VR, and some of those will come back. So look forward to more discussion.
I love how you threw AR, VR out there. Something we continue to talk about and hope at some point it will become a part. Well, we say that now. We hope that it will become a part of our lives in a more aggressive way here in the coming future.
We need a VCTV event with all of us on AR.
Yes, Maria, we got to take note of that. We're coming to the metaverse. 2021 VCTV will be in the metaverse, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard it here first as well. Gary,
yay,
Grandmaster, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. The Grandmaster of Artificial Intelligence. If you would do us such an honor to just hear a little about your background and a little introduction, please.
The Grandmaster, do us an honor. I mean, sure, Kyle, just for you. I don't know what to say. Remember, I am a country boy from Pennsylvania. So anyhow, my name's Gary Fowler, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been involved in 16 companies, 2 unicorns, Click Software early on, changed the name of the company, et cetera. I was sold to Salesforce, won 1.35 billion. I love AI. In fact, this morning I've already been judging a contest in Singapore, in Kenya, in South Africa on impact investing, and in Dubai. So already today, I've already been doing that, and I'm not yet. I won't be done till 11 o'clock tonight. So what I can tell you is the world has dramatically shifted. The digital transformation we talked about, Kyle, and I just was on the phone with a $5 billion fund. So, I mean, their mandate is to invest. Impact is hot. AI is super hot, and quantum computing is moving up the scale. So happy to talk and happy to be here today.
I love it. We're happy to have you. And those are all subjects we're going to be talking about, not just today here on this episode, but also on our next episode here at VCTV, which will focus solely on quantum and the future of it. But before we go any further around that rabbit hole, which we've got a ton to speak about, Tolga, the man of electricity, everything EV, this guy, Tolga, is the person to go to. Tolga, give us a little intro, a little background.
Thank you, Kyle, and it's a pleasure again to be here with you guys. My background, I started my own after working for companies like Spin Master, Electronic Arts. I started my own company called Thunderbolt and built multiple different applications under the umbrella of my own company. And eventually, I sold my company to an investment company called New Wave Holdings, based in Canada. And that company went public. That was my exit. And right now I am in electric vehicles, as you mentioned, and EV charging. Our company is called Loop. And I am the vice president of the company and helping with both product design and marketing. Currently, we are one of the fastest growing EV charging networks in America. And when it comes to sustainability, clean energy, I am definitely your guy. I am very interested in these markets, and also electric vehicles. It's very hot. I think next year is going to be huge. Yeah, but for now, this is, I think, good information. Yeah, good introduction.
Absolutely. And I want to come back to EV. It's one of the areas we've talked a lot about here on VCTV with you and others, but also going into 2021, would love to hear your thoughts and predictions. But we'll come right back because last but not least, the wonderful Miss Lubna. Welcome back to the show. It's an absolute pleasure joining us potentially from the beach or from the snow. It doesn't matter. She's here today and happy.
From
Little
the beach
intro.
or the snow, you never know. We're rhyming here. Thank you so much, Elliot. Mr. Elliot. Well, thank you so much. So I'm Lubna Dajani. My interest is in innovation up and down the stack of technology and its applications, and where physical meets digital and life. So some years ago, I was asked to contribute to a book on the impact of the enterprise on future cities. And I was getting really sick of people talking about IoT because, well, it's just our industry teaching people to talk about industry talk. And I came up with this word Alternet, because Alternet stands for all people, places, and products, aware, addressable, accountable. And and what happens then? You know, when you have ubiquitous access, I've been talking about ubiquitous web forever. So when you have ubiquitous access, ubiquitous connectivity, you have computing across the board, then you layer all the innovations in the technology stack, and all you apply that across all the fields of science and tech and life, and you'll see that there is an enormous disruption. So, and where do we want to be today as we are becoming more of a hybrid beings, physical, digital? So I think innovation is happening everywhere, up and down the stack and across the globe. Corona it's not really Corona, it's all the lockdowns and how we've handled it, has accelerated our adoption or openness to adopt new models. So you will find energy powers technology. So energy is going to be, it's like my next big thing. is, and green energy, because, we've come to a point we realize that all of our economic models have been maybe profitable, but rather stupid and counterintuitive. And so hopefully you'll find a lot more disruption up and down the stack of regeneration and across the sciences, and how when we take these transdisciplinary approaches and you bring innovation from different sciences, whether it's architecture, engineering. So hopefully smart city talks will move to more empathic, well-being based cities, and there'll be innovation up and down. So technologies, whether it's AI, distributed, oh my God, did you see like the price of Bitcoin today? Oh!
We don't even have an emoji to express it other than that.
Anyway, let me go shoot myself after. No, I'm kidding. No, but anyway, so there you have it. From AI in movement of in flow of value or flow of cars or flow of people, immersive technologies, whether it's in gaming or in education or in it's gonna be, it's an explosion.
Absolutely, and an explosion is a great way to put it. I mean, we literally went through this first half of 2020 and just kind of what's happening, where do we go, where do we look. The second half has been just that, an explosion. It has been a rapid deployment of capital, and some of it, as we mentioned yesterday here on VCTV, a lot of it, some of it was money sitting on the sidelines, having to be deployed before the end of the year. But at the same time, as we mentioned as well, that the world has opened up, and the opportunities to invest in more global regions or in more opportunities has never been there like it has today in such an accessible way. And so you're seeing more deals done either at the angel level, the family office level, or just at what was once non-accredited, but now today is accredited because of the change of rules by the SEC here in the US. We're seeing just a whole change in the fundraising process. And Tolga, I want to start with you real quick, if you have a moment, and talk to you about what you're seeing investing look like in this new reality. And again, that means in 2021. What do you see investing looking like? How do you see things changing? What do you see as exciting in terms of your world?
I think, I mean, during the pandemic, one thing became really obvious, and it is that right now we're definitely living in a new reality, as similar to the subject of this discussion. And I think that if any business model that is not aligning with this new reality is not going to be able to survive. Many industries are becoming archaic only in a matter of months. Everything is replacing one another, and right now I think people should be really focusing on, especially entrepreneurs should be really focusing on what is really hot, because money is going to be flowing in that direction. Investors are investing into these hot markets, and these hot markets are, as you mentioned, it could be AI, it can be electric vehicles, EV charging. It can be, I think, mycological industry is super hot in terms of the psychedelics. I think it's gonna gain so much value. There's a great potential in these emerging markets, because every time, you look at the history, every time there's a big shift, the paradigm shift, there are more emerging markets coming out after this kind of Great Depression or big wars or the pandemic. And after we got out of this, there's going to be literally, it's going to be a new world, and these emerging markets are going to be determining our future. So both entrepreneurs and investors are going to be flowing in that direction. I think we should be, really focusing on that direction as well. Yeah.
I think it's a very good point. I mean, we are in a new world. Let's just put it there, right? And there's some exciting technologies that have been once only just chatted about or teased about, as even Lubna mentioned, the Internet of Things. It was just big, overarching, but its definition was very vague. And now we're starting to see a lot of the underlying technologies come to light in a very exciting way. And I want to come back to you here in just a moment around EV and where that's going, but thank you, Tolga. Raghu, to you, same question. What do you see, how do you see things different going into this new reality of 2021 from an investment standpoint? What do things look like? How do things maybe different from your perspective?
Yeah, I see a lot of money going into things like smart cities infrastructure stuff, which obviously technologies like IoT are in there, AI, but the money probably will be appropriated for those and spent just to kind of revive the economy, which I know for sure in India and Europe, there's a lot of activity in, the climate change and smart cities. I think that is going to come back up, which will drive a lot of the other underlying technologies. I think the hydrogen is also, I mean, in addition to, electric vehicles, I think hydrogen fuel is another hot area. The other, of course, cybersecurity and privacy is never going away. The more we are doing things with digitally, that is very important component. Somebody has to find something for ransomware because it's become rampantware. So absolutely important, I think, for this year. And I think the repurposed drugs area in biotech, the biotech landscape has changed a little bit because of a lot of SPAC money. Some of the SPACs will be running out of time, maybe second, third quarter, some of the older SPACs. So there should be a lot of activity there. A lot of M&A, I think, in the biotech area in general. Companies repurposing into new areas.
So it's interesting that you mentioned, smart cities and infrastructure. One of the things that we saw in the past couple of years around smart cities, but more into Tolga's world around EVs, was the Department of Transportation, so the DOT, putting out large grants, right, to build out infrastructures and also to do EV and autonomous testing. And we saw cities like Cincinnati, Ohio, get some of those grants. We saw areas like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and others really start to flourish in these new areas of technology and around AI, which Gary's coming to next here in just a moment. I mean, in AI, we're starting to see new AI centers, right? You have Ford, who has created a huge artificial intelligence campus in Detroit, Michigan. You have more activity as well in Ohio, in Pennsylvania, in many of the other cities and states around the country, as these government grants and opportunities are being put in. And what's funny and ironic about that is, if you come full circle to what created the Bay Area to be the Bay Area, was that government influence. And if you look at what it takes to build an ecosystem, and a flourishing one at that, no matter what country, what city, what place in the world, government plays that first role. And it's kind of unique to see how government is coming back into that potentially, maybe not, to help kind of seed some of these innovations at the infrastructure level to really flourish. And Gary, I want to come to you next on that. Thank you, Raghu. I mean, where do you see things, and how do you see things very differently playing a role in terms of investment in 2021?
Well, the world has changed since February of this year. So I can tell you, based on my own personal experiences, that the playing field is really leveled. I mean, last night I was on with Australia, with the top AI group in Australia. This morning, judging a contest in Singapore, then to Kenya, then to South Africa. So what I'm seeing is that I wrote an article a couple months ago called "The Democratization of Opportunity." Because intellectual capacity is evenly spread, but opportunities aren't. And we're seeing a chance where the world is fundamentally changed. And I had made my own predictions that some places like Russia, Ukraine, Belarus were really the hotbed of artificial intelligence, and they are. But I got to tell you, it's a lot different than I had thought. I'm seeing them in South Africa, to this morning in Kenya, literally all over the place. Dubai today. So the opportunities have really dramatically changed. And the other thing is how to find them, right? How to be able to go out and having VCTV where you're connecting the dots. It's critically important because they're there. The thing is, how do you find them? They're not, and generally they're startups that are just getting revenue. They're just starting to take off. They've got incredible technologies and artificial intelligence, and the key is getting them. So I'm seeing that. Of course, I just wrote an article in Medium on the 5 top trends. I don't know if you saw it, but the 5 top trends of 2021. So it's like you're reading my mind, Kyle. And of course, AI is critically important. Companies need to focus on it. I'm getting calls from all over the world, from pharmaceutical companies, from manufacturing. All of them are trying to figure out what their AI strategies should be. Many of them are calling up for that. So it's a great opportunity for us. And look what's just happened with, drug discovery and the COVID developed on the IBM Watson. Though the models were run not on the bench, but actually with Watson. And for many of the companies doing the COVID vaccine. So they've used different types of AI. So I'm encouraged about that. I mean, we're really, I talked about before that AI is the new electricity, but it's actually bigger than that. It's actually bigger than that. And the differences between, and even with quantum coming on board, but before quantum, it's a difference between the Stone Ages and trying to build a fire with a couple sticks, and the difference from driving a Ferrari in Formula One and traveling to Mars. It's that kind of a difference. So we're in for the dramatic shift in our life. The startups that really want to be successful have to look at where the paths are. I write a lot about quantum computing. I strongly urge people to take a look at it, because if you don't, you're going to be out. I strongly urge the companies to get an AI strategy in place, the semi-supervised, unsupervised AI. And the other thing is, I strongly encourage them, there's one thing about doing a deal. I'll never forget, a billionaire friend of mine said to me one time, I had a question. I said, what should I do? And he said, Gary, give me a quarter. And I said, okay. He said, flip it up in the air. He said, or give it to me, I'll flip it up in the air. I said, okay. He said, what is it, heads or tails? And I said, heads. He said, you know something, if you wouldn't have tried and you wouldn't have given me a coin, you have zero chance of success. At least you had 50-50 and you won. And that's one of the things, you got to get out there, this digital transfer, use your, it's like from Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, use it wisely. And now is the time to get forward. We need to use the technologies in front of us.
Absolutely. And I want to come back to you on something you just mentioned around AI strategies here in just a moment. But before I do, Lubna, I'd like to come to you for your opinion as well. I mean, what do you see changing? How do you see the new reality of 2021 and beyond for investment? What do you see differently in next year?
It's really up in the air. There's no accounting for what's happening. And it's why I'm inviting everyone to sit back, reflect on themselves, and the world that we're in, and set an intention. It really is a green field. And it's like a blank canvas, because we've been in lockdown for a whole year. New patterns, we have our own ability to adopt new technologies, new behaviors, new economic models, new everything, new forms of investment. You question everything. Everything that we had as a given is no longer a given. And anybody who pretends to know, looking at the historic, looking for the proven ROI, I want to have is, how boring, okay, at least. But the sky is really the limit. I think we are no longer physical, biological beings only. Our quality of our life depends on our hybrid existence, and that requires, if accepting that or understanding that will open us up to realizing and we can see that we're accepting and adopting a lot more of technologies that create the frameworks and the scaffolding of our new life as we get to recognize. It's not that it's really new, it's just that we have now realized, more of us than ever realize now at scale, that this is the reality. So of course, energy, it will always becomes very, very important, and hopefully clean energy. because digital requires, because we all need energy. At the end of the day, it's all about energy in reality. Then access, the more access we have, so whether it innovations, so we need to split the conversation in terms of what's happening. There's innovations and the technologies that are coming in, so you can invest in innovations. So yes, invest in AI or have it, with all due, to Gary's point, an AI strategy. I'm a systems person, so I'm not into having a strategy. Like a mobile strategy was a little bit more because it's really about the innovation stack. What is your digital strategy? AI is one component. You can't just throw AI at everything. You can't just throw blockchain at everything. But there is a place. Security is a huge umbrella. Because it has identity, authentication, access. There's so many things but cryptography is very important because we are humans and we don't have a whole lot of trust in each other, and we're trying to build digital trust. But design centric. So I think I can babble on about this, but so there'll be disruptions in the old stable ones that are still using mainframes, like. We'll probably start seeing more disruption. There'll be a lot more innovation coming from the developing world because they don't have to unlearn anything, and there's new infrastructure that can go. But education, digital finance, liquidity, it becomes really important. So I'm, again, big fan of new forms of currencies, and I'll stop here so I don't capitalize.
No, this is actually really great, and a good transition. The developing and emerging markets. It's a great point. I mean, we tend to kind of skip over that in some cases in the U.S. when we think about innovation, and are we behind? Are we ahead? Where are we? And you look at something like finance, and you reflect to where Europe is, to where Asia is, and it's a very easy equation if you get down to the basis of it. Is exactly what you said. Is you don't have to unlearn. Or you have an open opportunity with no infrastructure in place, or and a newer infrastructure in place, and you can just build rapidly on top of that, right? That's why we're starting to see areas like Latin America and Africa and even other parts of Asia really start to thrive around these new financial opportunities, because you don't have to unlearn, writing checks or using credit cards with chips. You can just go into digital wallets and digital currencies of all sorts. We'll leave that to our audience to imagine. But the great part is, and Lubna called it out right, it's a green field. It is open-ended opportunities for what 2021 and the decade ahead holds. So take the time, if you haven't, here in the next few weeks to reflect, as she mentioned, on what you've seen and where you want to go, because there's a ton. And for the investors, here's 4 individuals, 5, Maria, and the LA token 6 and 7. I mean, there's a group of us and many others who can point you in many different directions, but you've got to take that time and see what's exciting to you as well. And Raghu, I want to come back to you actually. Sorry, Tolga, I want to come to you real quick. Sorry for throwing you a loop. EV. What should we be thinking about when it comes to electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles in 2021? What should be our thought process and maybe a piece of our thesis if we're looking to start making investments next year?
First of all, I just ordered my own Tesla. It's coming. So I think people should be buying a bunch of electric vehicles because gas, yeah, I mean, it's just after you drive an electric car, you understand, how behind the gas cars were. It's insane. But long story short, I think electric vehicles are gonna be increasingly, adopted by the general population. And the battery, I was just reading about some news about the battery costs are going to decrease 90% in the next 10 years. So this is like maybe in the next 5-6 years, we're going to see $7,000, $10,000 electric cars in the market because it's cheaper to make it. There's no like huge cables, motors, engines, nothing. It's just it's a small electric engine pulls the energy from battery and just goes. And the battery technologies are improving every day. So massive market. And this also comes with, my industry is, of course, we are working with electric vehicles, but electric EV charging. It's massive. The reason why it's massive is because in the next 15, 20 years, the oil industry is going to be probably only serving for military operations or other similar kind of, industries. But the mainstream is going to be moving into electric transportation in every, medium. So that is going to change how we are consuming energy. And that's where the EV charging comes to the picture. It's a massive industry. Like we are, as a company, we are not even like really intimidated by any competition because the potential is unlimited. It's like it can go unlimited in the industry size from here. So I think that investors should be really taking a look at the EV charging. I think there's a massive value in rapid expansion and user adoption. That's what we are going after right now. We're trying to get the most amount of users as soon as possible because this is going to be like a huge industry with a bunch of government incentives all over the world. This is only happening right now in maybe in few countries, but in the next 3-5 years, this is going to be really mainstream all over the world. There's going to be a global effort for electric vehicles. And that's when actually the real show starts and the real money. It's going to be massive.
And that is a fascinating transition because mass adoption, more people, more electric cars, more autonomous. Raghu, how the heck do we protect ourselves? What is, and not to use a security strategy, because Lubna does bring up a good point that's very big and overarching, but how do we think about this? How do we start looking at security and privacy when we hit those areas of mass adoption? And thank you, Tolga, and Raghu, to you.
Yeah, I think you know about my data vaccine. So that's the approach. Just like we have the, pandemic vaccine for multiple platforms, not just COVID. Any new coming pandemic, we need a vaccine platform available, ready to go, not like this. Everybody's trying to catch up, right? So the same approach on cybersecurity, it needs a total new blue ocean thinking where you're not doing, all the other stuff is still needed, preventive and reactive stuff, but you need something that is proactive that, even if you get infected, so-called, you still don't, you get exposed, you don't get infected. That's the idea, right? So that kind of thinking is needed. Right now, I'm advising on the vaccine deployment in India, which requires a lot of these technologies, including blockchain. There is cybersecurity. There is, all kinds of stuff. Huge. We are talking about 600 million people. So these are not, when you talk about scaling, that's what is happening in countries like India, because they did not have, just like they leapfrogged on the mobile, their digital transformation, energy, a lot of these things, it's being leapfrogged. And I'm hoping that this year, actually, some of the developed economies are going to put back money into the infrastructure and catch up, just to kind of get boost to the economies. I see that happening in Europe. A lot of, I'm seeing like smart city stuff and cybersecurity things that are coming up, which IoT, IoT and AI obviously are in there. So on the clean energy side, specifically, I want to talk about a few things. In addition to infrastructure upgrade, another, I think, big trend that's happening because of IoT is remote monitoring and predictive maintenance, because you can actually, remotely monitor a lot of these. This is more OT, operational technology, like power plants and, hospital systems, and which cannot really go down for maintenance. And we can dramatically scale down the resource needs if you have the sensors in the right place and have highly, qualified technical personnel in a remote monitoring center, which is also another need, because technologies like nuclear engineering and stuff, not many people are studying those. So, and the older experience, people are retiring. So you have to make do with less people and be more smart about it. So part of the smart city initiative is smart monitoring and smart maintenance, predictive maintenance, which brings in AI, so that before something fails, you're able to, you kind of change your investment from, repair kind of mode to, continuous monitoring and maintenance and predictive, maintenance on the inventory, the assets, everything. So I think those are areas. I think there's a lot of interest and investment going from my circles.
And Lumna, you're sitting over there smiling and laughing. I'm going to turn it over to you. I feel like you got some comments. So I'm going to turn you wild.
Go for it. Well-being. See, they circle back. You call it maintenance or tracking or management or keys management or it's all thinking of the well-being of our systems.
So circular economy.
I agree with Tol, actually. Huh? Yeah.
Circular economy.
Well, I say I want it to be a bit more of a spiral, because I don't want it to end up like an infinite loop. But yes, indeed, circular economy kind of concepts but energy, when you say smart cities, there is no smart cities without really a strategy. Actually, I don't think that I've come across without the electric car bit and the recharging and the storage and the redistribution, because it is a big part of the smart city. And even the power providers is those vehicles are part of the storage. Your electric vehicle is carrying a charge that is distributed and redistributed throughout the grid on as needed basis. So God forbid you have an emergency where we would need AI in the middle of the night, because if you don't usually drive your car, you may be an energy source to fuel someone else's car, and as long as you're refueled before the time that you normally leave. So machine learning and AI come into, so we're talking IoT, we're talking smart, deep learning, and AI, we're talking, electric vehicles and electric charging and recharging and electric storage and energy storage. So yeah, and then the well-being, the more the exposure we have of the digital footprint, the more attack surface. So the more we move from obscurity to by design, for security, and you'll see a lot more innovations, whether it's using quantum or physical architectures of the silicon itself, or the processors, or how we integrate them, the physical and the digital. So maybe your own biometrics or your own state of being as a component to your key. So yeah, it's wonderful. What was the question again?
No, that was perfect. I actually got a question for you, Gary. I mean, AI in quantum. We're gonna hold quantum for the moment, but AI. I'm looking at 2021. Where am I placing my bets and thinking about artificial intelligence integration into my company? I mean, let's go a level deeper. Where should I be paying attention to in the AI landscape as things change and going forward here in 2021?
The thing is, where shouldn't you pay attention? It's like, I mean,
well, I know, but where should the audience know about paying attention?
And the thing is, so like, I'm a country boy, remember, from Pennsylvania. So the supply chain, we've had a lot of challenges with the supply chain. You can't get toilet paper in California. So you either get toilet paper or you get a lot of bidets. You got to look at ways to be able to have a view into the supply chain to figure out where those products are. Our whole model is wrong, right? This just-in-time inventory does not work. So we've got to look at that. Optimization algorithms across the board, medical, to be able to, for diagnosis, for healthcare, for drug discovery. I was just on a panel of 8 of us AI folks in Europe, and we were talking about drug discovery and how drug discovery today, think about it. You don't have to use the bench time. You actually run these simulation models, just like Pfizer did with for the COVID vaccine. So self-driving cars, electricity, energy management system. We have an energy management system that's an AI-powered energy management system. So not just in one place, but reaching out to different locations. So those type of interesting, innovative systems. Service chain optimization, having the right product, the right place at the right time. What truck do I need to have in what particular location? Which driver is qualified to do it? At what time can they be there? What's the route that they need to take? It starts getting really complicated. Those type of technologies are interesting. So it's space. We look at, we've talked many times about going to Mars, but it's not so simple. There's a lot of data that needs to be analyzed. And if you're going to Mars, you want to make sure you've got these intelligent assistants like the European Space Agency has that can go up and not only monitor your health, but monitor your emotional state and communicate with you. So those type of emerging technologies are interesting. I mean, look at where we've been able to explore the universe, right? Your friend, Christopher, told me that there's 6 billion Earth-like planets just in the Milky Way and 200 trillion galaxies estimated in the universe. 200 trillion, right? And so look at what we have. He said, once you go out in space and you look down at the Earth, you understand how small we really are. Well, think about, we're just at the beginning of a journey. Humankind is just the beginning of a journey. We haven't even started yet, right? And it's beautiful. His project is called the quantum, the teleportation. I'm actually writing an article on it, the teleportation of quantum particles, because it's so interesting for me. So imagine being able to be able to move, like Beam Me Up, Scotty. So we're in a stage where they're able to analyze. The problem we've had before is that we had data, but we couldn't really not only analyze it, but be able to forecast what we needed to do with it. And then on an unsupervised way, having decisions made. Well, those days are coming short. And now those technologies, it's a dawn of a new era. Sounds like the Transformers or something. It's truly the dawn of an era. And so what I would look at, AI literally will be in virtually everything that we do. So if I'm dealing with agricultural products, if I'm dealing with self-driving tractors, which we do, artificial intelligence. If I'm dealing with agriculture, developing new seed strains. I wrote an article on genetics. I don't know if you saw it, genomes, genetics, and AI and Medium. So people say where, it's everywhere. So if you're out there, you're an investor, and I talk to a lot of investors here and contacted me, lots of them. I count up, there's 367 investors now that I've been actively involved with in one way, shape, or form. So what they talk about is how can we apply AI? Where can we invest in artificial intelligence? And so fashion tech, I just had a call this morning with a huge fund out of the Middle East that's involved in fashion tech. AR, VR, AI, anything that's ancillary to that, crowd movements was within stores, how to predict buyer behavior, how to use interesting technologies, coming into a store with a camera so you can understand who that is and provide special products, services, and discounts to them, customer loyalty. It's incredible what's happening. So I could go on and on about it because I love it. But so AI, but look for quantum computers too, because quantum computing is starting to take hold. I've never had as much interest in any of my articles or any of my presentations that has been recently with quantum computers, and especially quantum computers and AI. And if we start to look at this, cybersecurity, as I said, is going out the window. Now we're talking today. I'm writing I just published an article on cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. It just got approved by Forbes today. And already I'm talking about cybersecurity, quantum computing, and quantum encryption.
Which is insane.
It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
It is, but it's the future.
Sorry. It is. And for those who have not read Gary's Medium, I definitely encourage you to check it out, but also to check out all of our investors today and their publications and where they're writing. But I do want to switch gears real quick. End of the year predictions, or excuse me, yeah, end of the year predictions for 2020. The one or two industries you've got super zeroed in, bullseyed for 2021, cannot miss. Your predictions and closing thoughts and where you can be found online as we come to close here. Raghu, let's start it off with you. Closing thoughts, bullseye, where's the target going? Can't miss industry, and then where can everyone find you online?
Yeah, I think immediate interest is in two areas, cybersecurity and data protection. And second one is, I think, vaccine delivery and the supply chain diagnostic, that area, because it's, the next 6 months, it's going to touch everybody. So I can be reached on LinkedIn at Raghu S. Rao and or at Splitbyte. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Raghu. Tolga, to you, end of the year prediction, bullseye, closing thoughts, where can you be found?
You can reach me via LinkedIn, Tolga Onuk. My website is tolgaonuk.com. 2021, I mean, I really hope that it's going to be a better year. So many people, like other than all the startups, VCs, investments, economy, a lot of people really suffered this year, including myself. I had like family members dealing with this pandemic. So I'm just hoping for everybody to have a really fantastic, fresh, beautiful year. And I hope that the business is going to be thriving for these emerging markets that I indicated. And I think, like I said, EV charging, electric vehicles is going to be huge. If you're interested in learning more, please contact me, and I would love to, give you my thoughts, my opinions. And yeah, and our new website, Loop, is coming. So I'm going to announce that very soon. It's very exciting.
Wonderful, wonderful. Lubna, to you. Area of industry, bullseye, cannot miss. Closing thoughts, where can you be found?
We've covered them quite a bit today. I mean, really across every vertical will be disruption, because as Gary is described, AI can accelerate, AI, deep learning, machine learning, what have you, this added up computational capacity when you layer it on top of all that 5G and all the access, nanotechnologies and what have you, even in the delivery of medicine and the vaccine. So I think cryptocurrency and digital finance, definitely energy, AI and ethical AI, identity and personal data, and supply chain. So in terms of solutions, the changes to supply chain and supply transparency, supply chain management, being a dynamic supply chain reallocation. I think graph technologies, but the combination of distributed together with graph on top of some AI and data modeling and some immersive, and now in the context of ubiquitous web. So when you have all is connected and hopefully with the right kind of access, then the rate of innovation, to Gary's point, is quantum. We have to get together, by the way, Gary.
Absolutely.
You keep saying that.
Wait a second, my wife just listened here.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, there's gotta be.
I'm just kidding, honey. I'm just kidding.
I'm sure your wife is where all the good solutions are coming from. I know better.
And Lubna, I mean, you just threw out, you said we covered them all. You just threw out about 10 new topics that we need to be paying attention to. So audience, stay tuned, because we're going to be diving a lot deeper into a lot of those that Lubna just mentioned moments ago, because it is a very important area as well. And Lubna, just one quick shout out. Where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation about all of that?
And please, LinkedIn, anywhere at Lubna Dajani. And please, if you do connect, please indicate that you we connected here so that I know. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And last but not least, Gary, close us out. Bullseye target, which I believe is AI, and quantum. But if you got anything else, throw it out. Closing thoughts, where can you be found?
Yeah. So AI and quantum, but the other thing is we need to all think differently. The opportunities are around the world today. And if we want to make the world a better place, as Tolga said, people are suffering, give them jobs, right? So I'm going to Africa. I'm literally all over the world to be able to create jobs. And one of the ways we can do that is look for incredible companies that have a chance to go global, curate them, and help them go global. It'll create a lot of jobs, a lot of goodwill, and we can make the world a better place. It's been a tough year on one side. On the other side is, I'm encouraged, just like we are here today, with this digital transformation. And I don't think we would have done it in short order, but we got kicked in the butt, and here we are. So I'm very encouraged about it. I'm looking forward to a positive new year. Even though the pandemic is at levels, people seem to be more accepting and understand we still need to move forward, and we need to move forward in a very positive, focused way to get stuff done. So it's great to be here, Kyle. You can reach me, Gary Fowler, Twitter, Gary Fowler, LinkedIn, Gary at gsdvs.com. I've got a show every week, GSD Presents, and tune in. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you all, Tolga, Raghu, Gary, Lubna. Thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts and insights. And also to your audience, thank you for tuning in. If you like what you hear, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do reach out if you'd like to be on a show like today. Thank you, Raghu. Whether as an investor to share your thoughts and insights, thank you, Gary, or as an entrepreneur to join us on the virtual stage and pitch us your company, product, and service. We'd love to hear from you either way, so do reach out to myself and or the team. Thank you, Lubna, to make sure we find the right opportunity for you. And a big thank you to our team at LA Token and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. And you can find myself at Kyle Ellicott on all social media, along with all of our investors today as well on their respected social networks and or publications. And make sure you do add context, as Lubna mentioned, when you reach out, so we know not only where you heard us, but also what you may be interested in speaking about as well. And with that, I'm your host for VCTV, and we'll be back here after a short little break, talk a little bit more about the world of quantum. See you soon.
Yay!